issues where it either takes forever to set up or it's immediate and wonderful. So, hi, this is an unexpected live stream video, so I'm not sure if anyone's going to pop in today. I mostly just wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to give a video today because I realized last night it wasn't happening. So if people show up, that's awesome. I would love to interact with people and kind of move that forward. But ultimately, this is just a quick update so that you guys have something on my channel. So first and foremost, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie, and this is all about my life after gastric bypass surgery. If you are new here, this is me about, I'm a rapidly approaching 2 years post-op for my gastric bypass surgery that I did have done in Mexico at Mexico Bariatric Center in Tijuana. So I have been recording everything from my entire process, just so that everybody knows exactly what I'm going through. And it's been quite a process. So at this point, like I said, I'm rapidly approaching 2 years post-op, and it is surprisingly more involved than I thought it would be. I truly thought that at this point I would kind of be falling off of anything being interesting. I'd be in a routine. I'd have reached kind of the point where I don't have any further updates. I'd have lost as much weight as I was going to lose, and it would be pretty boring. But things are far from boring because, as I failed to anticipate, but makes total sense, I have a lot of changes that I'm still trying to figure out. 2 years is not a lot of time. It sounds like a lot when we talk about 2 years have gone by. It sounds like a lot of time, but ultimately it's not a lot of time, especially for the number of changes that we're talking about, the things that I'm going through in my life. There's just a lot of things that I'm still trying to get the hang of. Certain things are not an issue anymore when it comes to, making sure I'm getting enough calories, making sure I'm hitting my protein goals, struggling with eating, struggling with hydration. Those things aren't really a problem in the same way that they used to be. Hi, Lisa. Welcome. It's nice to see you. All I was getting at is some of those things are not an issue anymore. Those things that I had to get used to early on after surgery aren't an issue, but then other things are an issue. Right now, I'm really stressed out, and I was going through some of my prior videos and realizing that that's not an uncommon occurrence for me. So I hope that that doesn't continue to be this thing of like, oh, she's stressed again. But I think it's still relevant here because what I'm realizing is that my approach to stress and the way I handle it and the way that I deal with the stress is so different now after surgery. And part of it is directly related to food, but part of it is like, I'm still figuring this stuff out. I'm still figuring out how to appropriately deal with stress when this is like my normal stress responses aren't possible. So in the past, and I know I've talked about before, my binge eating, I would be totally stressed out. I would just go off the freaking wall and I would eat as much as possible, and I'd eat so much takeout. So much takeout. And I would be like overwhelmed with the idea of like, I have a craving for something, so I'm just gonna go eat it. And then the next day I would do the same thing. Well, now I crave a hamburger. Now I crave pasta. Sorry, I got a delivery, so the dog's like all sorts of crazy. I would get a craving for something and I would just absolutely like succumb to it. Like I had no way. I would maybe be able to go a day without eating the thing that I wanted to eat, and it would just be so like overwhelmingly in my brain. Hi, is it Venice? Did I say that right? Hi, welcome to my live stream. Again, I apologize if the dog's barking. He gets so excited when people are around that he doesn't realize that he can't, display those kinds of emotions in the way that he does, which is what I've been talking to my therapist about myself as well. So I can relate to the dog here. So I don't do that anymore. I don't succumb to those cravings. In fact, I don't even have those cravings in the same way. I don't get like these thoughts about what kind of food I want to eat and then focus on it until I eat it. That has been a huge, huge change. And I'm not sure what that is specifically because that's a mental thing. Like cravings and stuff is mental. So that has nothing to do with like physically the surgery. But I do suspect it has something to do with the fact that the pleasure I get from food now is so not on the same scale. I don't get that emotional release, that endorphin rush from food like I would prior to surgery. Um, do I still turn to food to cope sometimes? Absolutely. Do I still eat more sweets right now when I'm stressed than I probably should eat? Yeah, like there's food is still a coping mechanism that I'm struggling to find that balance with, but it's not the same as it was prior. Where I would get this feeling of like, that endorphin rush and that like, oh, I feel better, even though I feel sick. Like it's hard to describe if you've never experienced that. I would feel awful after binging, but like brain wise, I would feel like I've satisfied what I needed. I've heard one of the benefits of the surgery is that it can reset the brain gut connection. And I think that's totally true. I think that there's this like, because one of the things I've experienced after surgery is this reset to my hunger cues, which is probably in the same realm as that brain gut connection. Like, I never felt full ever. And if I felt full, it was because I ate so much that it was like concerning. And it would be like, feeling full because there literally was no more room. And so it was an uncomfortable feeling, rather than like just a feeling of satisfied and full. And that is the biggest takeaway I think I can describe after surgery is that it reset my ability to feel full and hungry again. I don't know if I ever truly felt hunger prior to surgery. I never let myself go long enough between eating that I would feel true hunger. So I don't know that I really felt that hungry and eat, full, stop eating pattern that I do definitely feel now, which is one reason why my last video where I was talking about I'm not worried about my eating habits, that's one of the reasons. I'm able to 100% feel like I'm going to stop eating now. So let's say I do stress eat, or like today, it was a combination of stress, but also convenience. I have no time. My work is so demanding right now. I had no time. And because I did not prepare appropriately the night before, I was stuck needing food at lunchtime and no real time between appointments and things on my schedule to deal with it. So there was a drive-in next to my office, and I have been wanting to try them. I'm actually surprised that it's been this many years I've worked in that office and never tried the drive-in. So I would say that I've got pretty good willpower at this point if I haven't tried them yet after this many years. But the drive-in was there. I knew I could easily order a burger online, go over, pick it up, and then head off to my next obligation for work. So I did that. Is it a great idea to be eating, hamburgers and milkshakes? No, that's not like the best choice. Is it okay considering it is okay to feed myself? I do not have to abide by certain rules, and I know when my stopping points are. Do I finish the whole meal now? No, that's not the reality of my situation anymore. So I eat until I'm full and satisfied. Was it a healthy choice? No, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. Will I have a healthy dinner tonight to make up for that? I mean, not just to make up for it, but that's like just what's prepped and like planned for dinner tonight. But it's about the balance. And so that that mind gut connection is really important, I think, because my ability to say I'm done eating now, even if it's junk food, I didn't have that before, and I think that there's something really powerful about that. Should I eat a certain way, or should I aim to at least eat healthier more often than not? Yeah, absolutely, but it doesn't mean that I'm required. Nobody's requiring me to do anything. I find it so interesting, just that the internet. Hi, is it Kara or Kara? But hello, welcome to the live stream. I'm wondering why the internet feels it's so important to like food police people and be like, oh, after surgery you shouldn't eat this way, or you definitely shouldn't be eating carbs, or you shouldn't be eating hamburgers. People, I think I mentioned it in my last video, that people like get on people on Instagram about eating a hamburger after surgery. I've had plenty of hamburgers after surgery. The majority of my hamburgers now, I throw away one of the buns and I just kind of eat it open faced. And that's not because I don't want the carbs. That's because that amount of bread is hard for me to digest. That's simply just like what I can handle. I'm not limiting my carb amount because I feel like I'm not allowing myself to have the bread. I just physically can't eat two bun pieces very easily anymore. But there's so many people that seem to feel that they know what is appropriate with your eating habits. Yeah, and it's disappointing seeing when we treat each other like that, because I feel like people get in this mentality where they approach surgery different, right? Some people approach this surgery as like, I'm never going to have a carb again. A carb. I mean, there's carbs in vegetables and fruits. So, even that gets tricky when you have conversations with people. But they're like, oh, I'm never going to have rice, pasta, bread again. And maybe somehow they can do that, or they find success with that. And then they decide, because they were able to do that, they were successful and they know what the answer is. And so when it comes to that, they then try to like have this enlightened viewpoint with people and like, oh, you should be doing this because I found success with that. Well, I'll tell you right now, if that's the pattern, if that's what we're doing, I've lost over 175 pounds and I eat freaking cheeseburgers. So, I mean, I don't know that that's the answer, you guys. I think that it really has to do with each individual person. I've always maintained the viewpoint that, unfortunately, weight loss, with or without surgical assistance, is very personalized, and there's no cookie cutter approach to it. You can't just, follow a plan. People make a lot of money proclaiming that you can just follow their plan and you'll be as successful as they are. And sometimes it works, but a lot of times it doesn't, because you have to fine tune things that work for you based on your specific body, your specific needs, and your specific, like your mentality. This all or nothing thing doesn't work for some people. And mentally, if you can't handle that, you're going to need a different approach. And so the work for weight loss is not necessarily in the discipline of, can you stick to a plan? There's some truth to that, but I think the work in weight loss is finding the trial and error of what's going to work for you. That's the hard part, because it takes failure. It takes you trying things out and failing and being like, oh, that didn't work for me, and readjusting to find what does work. And that's the part people don't like doing. I get it. I've been there. We don't like this trial and error and failing. We want to be able to put effort into weight loss and just see results and be like, yay, I'm working, I'm doing the work, and I did it. I think the hardest part about weight loss is the necessary failure for you to figure out that doesn't work for me. Is it as simple as I can't eat that because my body reacts to it and I, you know, like hold on to a lot of water weight? It could be that. It could be I can't do that because mentally it puts me in a bad place and I end up gaining weight, which is where I was at. Too much restriction, telling myself I couldn't have certain things and I could have other things, or that I needed to replace things. Like, oh, you can't have a cookie, so, you know, replace it with a piece of fruit at night so you get your sweet fix. Does that work for anyone? Like seriously, like how many people can legitimately eat a piece of fruit instead of a cookie and then feel like they got their sweet tooth fixed? I don't think that works for most people. But because of my eating, my disordered eating past, and I think that's a lot of, you know, where a lot of people come from, you can't have a lot of restriction or it just doesn't work for you. And then ultimately, if you're like me, you're trying really, really hard, but then ultimately failing because mentally it's not working for you. And then you end up I lost my train of thought because Elizabeth said that her surgery date is 12/12. So I'm super excited for you, Elizabeth. I was like, don't forget to react to that. You forgot what you're saying. So congrats, Elizabeth. I'm really excited because that is just that's such a huge step, and it can be like really daunting. But ultimately, when you get to that point, I think if you've established that that's the route that you need to take, then I am all for people, you know, hitting it hard and going for it. um, but I guess if I can remember what I was saying, essentially, um, that's the hard work. If you find out that, you know, you restricting yourself from eating certain foods puts you over the edge, and then you're like me and you end up gaining weight because of it, then obviously that doesn't work for you. So you need to find a balance with that. And that trial and error is essential, I think, to the weight loss process. And it's tailored to you. I mean, nobody can just tell you what the answer is, because so many people on like social media will tell you not to eat pasta anymore. And like, if I cut pasta out of my life entirely, I'll start to spiral and think about nothing but pasta. And that's problematic. Maybe for somebody who doesn't have that kind of relationship with food, they can get away with like not eating pasta anymore. But for someone like me, it doesn't work. And so that can't be part of my strategy because it just won't work. When I was in Weight Watchers prior to going through with surgery, I found the most success by doing, it was pretty like, um, oh, thank you so much. It was nice seeing you, Appalachian Gigi. um, so I had the most success on Weight Watchers when I went 5 or 6 days. Like basically, I go 6 days out of the week, really following the program, and staying within my points. I did mix things up. I ate pasta and bread and things. You know, I was very balanced to my approach with Weight Watchers, but I was very careful about my points. At the time, they had like a blue dot system. So if you were within the range and your points, you got a blue dot, and it was like, you know, a little smiley face sticker for the day. I was very careful about hitting that 6 days out of the week. And on Sundays, I would go and pick up my fiance from work. We would go to a restaurant and I would gorge myself. Is that a healthy approach to this? Probably not. But you're talking to somebody who was dealing with a binge eating disorder and not dealing with it the appropriate way. And so I was able to stay restrictive all week and then eat a lot on Sundays. Which then I would dip into my weekly points. If you know anything about the Weight Watchers system, you have these extra points you can dip into throughout the week that theoretically aren't going to throw you off. I don't have any problems inherently with the way that system works if you adhere to the system the way that it's supposed to. The people who overthink it or underthink it usually are the ones that run into problems with it. But ultimately, that's how it was set up. We had these the points that you had every day, and then you had weekly points that you could dip into. I would save all of mine, and I'd eat all of my weekly points on Sunday. So I would, we'd go to a buffet or, go somewhere with large portions. I'd eat a whole bunch. I wouldn't count it, most of my points. I would just kind of have a free for all, have a dessert, whatever. But I actually had the most success on Weight Watchers when I did that. I was consistently losing like 3 pounds a week when I did that. And I firmly believe it's because it's not about what you're eating. Partially portion control, right? Obviously, if I'm going all week minding my portions and then only having one day a week where I wasn't minding my portions, statistically that's going to even out to be that you're eating good portions throughout the week. But I was like giving myself that food freedom. That wasn't the way to go about it. But I give myself that food freedom now. I don't beat myself up when I have a piece of bread with butter because that's what I want. Is it protein, or is it going to give me nutrients or even keep me full? Not for very long, probably, but do I really want that piece of bread and I'm hungry enough for it and it's there? And yeah, sure, I give myself that food freedom, which keeps me from going insane, because that ultimate restriction is what's the problem. So I think, again, I think it's really important to know what works for you and to be willing to fail in order to find out what works for you. If you're not willing to fail and learn from it, and your only your only hope is that you just follow a program very strictly, and you get to your end goal, what ends up happening is at the very end of that, when you can't sustain that type of very strict program for the rest of your life, and you've hit your weight loss goal, now what do? You don't know how to balance that. You don't know how to transition from weight loss mode to weight maintenance mode. And a lot of people will end up swinging backwards and they'll regain their weight. I think that's a big reason why people regain after surgery, is that they don't fully figure out how to eat for a lifetime. Now, I say these things, and I'm only 2 years into this process. I'm fully aware that I don't have all the answers, and I may run into an issue, a year or two down the road where I, have to kind of reassess stuff. So this whole thing is just a learning experience. If you're not willing to learn from the mistakes or learn how things affect you and make adjustments along the way, most likely for the rest of your life, then it's going to be a pretty tough process with or without surgery. Weight loss is the same, even if you don't have the assistance with surgery, because what surgery helps you with is that first year and a half, really, really kind of forces you to make some of those changes. After that point, it's kind of up to you. And if you haven't learned in that year and a half how to eat and how to function outside of the surgery, really carrying that weight for you, it's going to be a really tough transition. So I initially started this live stream by talking about my current stress and stuff. So, kind of bouncing off of that, I went and I had, I got the hamburger, and I thought about getting the milkshake, and then I was like, you don't need the milkshake. And then when I finally placed the order, I was like, yeah, go ahead and get the milkshake. So I got a milkshake, knowing full well that I can't have very much milkshake, or it does make me sick. Some things do still make me sick with too much sugar, and sweet drinks are a big one because they go through me really quickly. And so that can be problematic. So what I did, though, was I ate half of my hamburger until I felt full, and I ate a couple of the fries that came with it, and I had a few sips, mostly before I started eating, of my milkshake, and then the vast majority of my milkshake went straight in the freezer when I got home, and that's for my fiance later. So I allow myself to have the taste of things, to be able to be like, ooh, I'll get a milkshake, and I have a few drinks of it, and I'm like, yay, milkshake, but I don't finish things very often anymore, and that's different. I used to finish everything. I would have no problems clearing my plate or eating my portion of stuff. And the amount of times now that I just hand something over to my fiance to finish is pretty common. And so I think the biggest thing when I'm stress eating, when I'm going through a time like this where I am really busy and I don't have time between appointments to eat healthy, or to, if I was not prepared and did not prep a lunch for the next day, and then I'm in a situation where I can't do anything about it and I need some sort of food, it's fine. You go get a hamburger sometimes. You go and you eat these things, but be mindful about it. I'm not putting myself in that position every day. And I'm not putting myself in the position where if I choose to eat something out, I am getting a hamburger and milkshake every time either. Sometimes there's a place that I considered, but it was out of the way, so it wasn't as convenient, which would have defeated the purpose. But there's a place up where my office was, because I was in a different town this morning. There's a place up there that has shawarma, and it's absolutely one of my favorite things because it's basically a big hummus plate with a bunch of chickpeas and tomatoes and cucumbers, and I think they even have pickles mixed in with the hummus, and grilled chicken on top. And they do give you a piece of pita bread with it, but I find that I don't usually even want it. I'm just sitting there eating chicken covered in hummus. And it's so good. If it were more convenient, I would have gotten it today. That's a much healthier option. I don't always eat out and eat junk, but I also think that it's fair to give yourself grace, when you are in a situation like that. It's okay to feed yourself, and you don't always have to make a decision that someone else would be proud of. You got to get through this a day at a time, and sometimes the hamburger is the way you're going to get through the day. You deserve to eat something. You deserve to nourish yourself. You deserve to have that and then move on. It's in the past when I used to dwell on that, when I would do that on Weight Watchers and I'd have something that wasn't planned and I went, over my points or overboard, I would get really upset about it, and then I would just keep eating and it's like, oh, I've already ruined my day, so I'll keep eating whatever I want. And I know a lot of people that would fall into the same trap, and you kind of get this spiral where you're like, oh, well, I already ate bad, so I'm just going to keep eating bad and I'll start again tomorrow. It's important to catch yourself whenever you can and just get back on track whenever you can, and just say, you know what? Yeah, I ate that thing. Probably shouldn't have. And then just move forward and make the best decision you can moving on from that. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure to, on what other people are going to think, especially if you're somebody who posts stuff on Instagram. If you're active in these social media accounts. I see a lot of times on Facebook, people will share something that, is like in my situation where it's like, oh, I went out and I got a hamburger, but I only ate half of it. And I'm so proud of myself because in the past I would have just gorged and it would have been awful. But, I threw away half the bun and I ate half the burger and I feel really satisfied. And then you get all these people where they think that they're going to, be met with I'm so proud of you. You're really learning on this journey. They get met with all these people who are like, you should not have done that. I can't believe you're even eating a hamburger, and you get these situations where you think, you then get worried about what other people are going to think if you share anything about it. Or even if it's not social media, if we're talking about our friends and family, if they know that you went through the surgery, I still run into sometimes, I went to my cousin's house the other day and I was like, I either need a cocktail and it's noon or I need something to eat. I'm starting to feel like I probably need to eat something. And, her first question was, well, what can you eat? And it's not, that was a very nice way to go about it, because some people could be really mean about it, but you still run into that of people have this expectation that you can eat certain things, you can't eat certain things. She just wanted to accommodate me and I was like, give me some nuts and cheese. But when your friends and family are like, ooh, are you eating that? And they know that you've had surgery. Like, it makes you really question what you should eat. And ultimately, this is your journey, man. And you don't have to have anybody's approval of what you're doing. You don't have to have anybody who gives, signs off on your paperwork that your meal is appropriate for the day. And so therefore you're allowed to be proud of yourself. Only you know what's best for you. And in a situation where you're making the best choice that you can, you know the truth of the situation. And I know it's so much easier said than done to be like, who cares what other people think? But ultimately, this is our journeys that we have to make those decisions, because it has to be something that we do for the rest of our lives. I can't realistically never have another hamburger for the rest of my life. But can I do it differently and have it way less often than I used to? Yeah, I can make those choices. So it's about that balance. So I really only had about enough time to do like a 30-minute live stream today, just to get something out there for you guys, and connect with you before I had to move on to the other stuff that I've got to do today. I did, as a last note, wanted to just remind people that I do have memberships on the channel now. It's something that I've only discussed a couple of times, but if you are the kind of person who wants extra like content or behind the scenes stuff or extra communication with me, I have a membership. It's like $2, $1.99 a month, I think. I'm gonna have to double check that. But the reason I bring it up is I actually, the other day on Friday, I had an adult beverage and it hit me pretty fast, and I decided that something popped in my mind and I wanted to talk about it. So I recorded a video, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to post this on the main channel. But I decided that was something that was probably good for the membership side. Some of those things that maybe might be a little bit TMI or a little bit more embarrassing, or in that case, I was a little bit inebriated. I went ahead and posted it for members to view, so that it's not quite so public, but it's still, I think, valid information and stuff that I wanted to share. So things like that. And I also am doing a couple like outfits of the day, just things that I'm trying I'm still struggling to dress myself. If those are things that you're interested in, that's available on the membership side. So you can hit the join. I think there's a join button underneath the video, but also in the description, I'm going to put the join link just in case anyone's interested. You can see what all the perks are for memberships. But ultimately, just, subscribing and interacting on the channel is always the best way to show your support for me. So I appreciate everybody who came by and wanted to say hello. I'm scrolling through to make sure I don't miss anything. Oh yeah, you're going on a cruise in a few days, or in a few days for a week, and you're scared food is one of your favorite parts of the cruise. So I've had a couple of experiences since surgery. I'll just talk about this really quick, where I've done something that's like that, where it's like, a food heavy experience that I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this in the same way as I have in the past. What was it that we recently did? There was something in particular that was like, it was good for me to realize like how to approach it. But ultimately, I think I have noticed that when I approach situations like that, it ends up being like, I hype it up that it's going to be worse than it really is. And then by the time that I'm actually there, like, I might dish up more than I think that I'm going to do. But like, ultimately what I experience, and this is just me, I reach a point where I'm full and then I just don't really care anymore. I early on after surgery, I had a lot of food regret, and I had a lot of, like, I would really mourn the fact that I used to be able to eat more. And like, if you want to keep eating and you just don't have the ability to anymore, and it really sucks, especially if you're eating something really yummy. That was a real problem for the first few months after surgery. I had to learn how to do that. At this point, I don't know where you're at, 6 months post-op, but at this point for me, I'll be really excited about food, and I'll like be ready to go, go at it with the best of my ability to have little bites of everything. And once I realize I'm not going to hit that point, I end up being okay with like, well, I'm just going to stop here and I don't have to have everything. That's what it was. We went to a barbecue tasting fundraiser a few weeks ago, and they had little portions of barbecue at all these food trucks. And so we would go and we'd get the samples, and I was sharing them with my fiance. We knew that we were going to split all of the samples. And even then, halfway through, I realized I'm not going to get as far as I thought. And I really can only survive by having one bite of all the things that I really want to try. I couldn't even just split the samples with him. I could only, at one point, I had to flip over and just have one bite of all the things that I wanted. But then when I realized this is not going to go the way I thought, I switched gears. I had a bite of the rest of the things that we decided we wanted to eat. And then I was really full and really satisfied and no longer wanted anything to do with food. And I just moved on. And I feel like that's kind of how I would approach things in the future when it comes to like a buffet, or if we ever go on a cruise, or for our honeymoon, we're thinking about going to a really nice restaurant that has a tasting menu. And I'm nervous about a tasting menu because we've done those several times in the past. That's one reason we want to do it for our honeymoon, is like, it's kind of a thing that we like to do, but I haven't done one since surgery. And although they are small portions, a tasting menu gives you like 8 or 10 courses. And even though they're small pieces, I'm afraid that it's going to be more food than I can handle. And so our strategy going in, we're like, have a bite of the things coming, and because they're small portions, I can kick the rest off to him and he can finish off my portion. But I'm going to go at it with a strategy of, I want to experience it, I want to taste it, so I'm going to, but I'm going to be smart about it because I don't want to reach a point where they're bringing out more courses and I'm too full to even touch it. So I think coming at things with that kind of perspective and being like, I'm going to just have a bite of everything. When you get to the point where you've had your bite of all the things that you want and you're full and you feel satisfied with it, I think it'll not be a big deal. It sounds like it's going to be worse. It's like, oh, I don't want to overdo it or something. But that's been my strategy. I'm hoping it works for the honeymoon because I'm super excited about this restaurant, but I just don't want to embarrass myself by them bringing stuff out and me being like, oh, I'm too full to do it. I want to find that balance. So that's my strategy. Maybe that'll help for you on your cruise. So thanks so much, everybody, for stopping by, and I'll see you guys next week. I'm going to try to do what I can this weekend to get a video up ahead of time so that I don't get stressed with work and miss my video upload on Wednesday mornings. And if everything goes according to plan, we are going to the pumpkin patch this weekend. So maybe I'll give you an update from the pumpkin patch. I always like going there every year because I get to weigh all the pumpkins to see how many pumpkins we're getting and what we end up paying for it, and then I like to compare that to how much weight I've lost with how many pounds of pumpkins I'm purchasing. It's something I've been doing for the last like 4 years, so I'm excited to see what that comparison is going to be. So, ooh, yeah, go have fun and go pick apples. That'd be really fun. I got to check. We do technically have an apple tree in my yard, and I forget about it all the time. So I should probably go check this weekend and pick any apples that I can. And not waste anything. Okay, you guys have a really great night. Remember to stay happy and healthy and always look at the big picture, and I'll see you guys in the next one, and I'll try to figure out how to end my live stream because that's always the problem that I end up having. I think it's this button. We'll find out.